You might have had one of these sitting in a drawer. Maybe you sold it for cash, traded it for something newer, or just gave it away thinking it wasn't worth much. But here's the truth. Some guns age like whiskey, and today, they're not just collectible. They've made people millionaires. These aren't just weapons, they're investment pieces with steel, soul, and a price tag that skyrocketed past what anyone expected. This is the Gun Warehouse, and we're counting down the 10 guns that turned everyday owners into overnight legends. If you recognize one, you might want to check your safe, or kick yourself for letting it go. Number 10, Colt Python. If you ever had a Colt Python and sold it, ouch! That might be one of the most painful mistakes in gun history. The Python debuted in 1955 and was Colt's crown jewel. A .357 Magnum revolver, hand-fitted and polished to a mirror shine. Colt called it a premium revolver, but shooters quickly gave it a better nickname, the Rolls-Royce of wheel guns. And that wasn't hype. The original Pythons were crafted, not just assembled. Forged steel frames, fully lugged barrels, adjustable sights, and the smoothest DA or SA trigger you could ask for. Shooters loved it, collectors worshipped it, and when Colt discontinued it in 2005, the market exploded. Let's talk numbers. A mint-condition original Python with a 6-inch barrel easily sells for $4,000 to $6,000, depending on the year and finish. Snake gun collectors pay 5 figures for rare variants like the Elite, bright stainless, or early 2.5-inch snubs. Today's value up to $10,000 plus for rare examples. So, it's powerful, heavy, accurate, and iconic. And if you sold yours back in the day for a few $100, yeah, you helped someone else become a millionaire. Don't worry, you're not alone. Number 9, Winchester Model 1886. Now, if there's one rifle that defines Old West wealth today, it's the Winchester 1886. Originally released as a big game lever action, this wasn't your everyday cowboy's rifle. It was stronger, sleeker, and chambered for some of the hardest-hitting cartridges of the day, including 45, 70, and 50, 110 Express. Here's the wild part. Most folks back in the day used these rifles hard. They hunted with them, dragged them through brush, and eventually handed them down. Which means if you've got a clean original 1886 today, you're sitting on a gold mine. The 1886 was designed by none other than John Moses Browning, and it introduced a locking block system that could handle heavy loads without punishing the shooter. It was smooth, accurate, and beautifully balanced. Many featured case-hardened receivers, fine checkered stocks, and barrels that were ahead of their time in both length and profile. Today, collectors will shell out serious money for one in good shape. A standard model with honest wear and no major damage can fetch 5 figures. Special order rifles with custom engravings or rare calibers, those have crossed the $75,000 mark at auctions. That's not a typo. One rifle, 75 grand. Because in the world of lever actions, condition and originality mean everything. If you or someone in your family let one of these go during a garage sale, yeah, someone out there owes you a thank you card. Number 8, Parker Brothers shotguns. This one's for the old school shotgunners. If your granddad handed you down a Parker and you thought, hey, it's just some dusty side-by-side, you might have sold off a small fortune without even realizing it. Parker Brothers was one of the premier American shotgun makers during the late 1800s and early 1900s. These weren't just tools for hunting birds. They were handcrafted works of art, often with Damascus barrels, fine engraving, and walnut stocks that feel like polished furniture. They came in multiple grades, with grade 1 being the simplest and grade 8, called Invincibles, being museum-level rarities. Most folks used them for upland game hunting, and many were built in 12, 16, and 20 gauge. But what collectors drool over are the high-grade Parkers in excellent condition, especially the ones with factory engraving, straight stocks, and rare gauges like 28 or 410. Those are unicorns. If you've got one of those high-grade models tucked in a cabinet, you're holding something worth anywhere from $10,000 to over $100,000. Even more if it comes with documentation and matching serial parts. And get this, the last time a 28-gauge Invincible came to market, it crossed $250,000 at auction. Even the entry-level guns are now pulling prices that make people regret tossing them in a closet. The Parker name still carries weight, and for collectors of American shotguns, it's the holy grail. Number 7, Ruger Number 1. It's not flashy, it's not tactical, it doesn't even have a magazine. But if you ever owned a Ruger Num 1 and let it go, you might have sold one of the most underrated moneymakers in the world of rifles. Introduced in 1967, the Ruger Number 1 is a single-shot falling block rifle that was built with old-school elegance and modern precision. What made it special wasn't just the action or the accuracy, but the craftsmanship. These rifles came with deep bluing, beautiful walnut stocks, and tight tolerances that could rival high-end custom builds. Because Ruger made them in so many configurations, different calibers, barrel profiles, lengths, and limited runs, some models became instant collectibles, especially rare chamberings like 257 Roberts, 358 Winchester, or anything in a tropical or varmint configuration. Ruger didn't make them in huge numbers, and they quietly discontinued certain variants without warning. Today, certain Ruger Number 1 rifles are worth triple what they sold for new. A rifle you could have picked up for $400 in the 80s is now worth over $2,000 if it's in a rare caliber and good condition. Collectors see the Number 1 not just as a shooter, but as a legacy piece. It's the kind of gun you pass down, and the kind that keeps climbing in value while doing it. Number 6, Norinco SKS. If you grew up in the 90s, chances are you saw one of these in a gun shop rack for under $200. Maybe you even bought one. Maybe you spray painted it camo, slapped on a Tapco stock, or, worst of all, sold it off to fund your first AR. Big mistake. The Norinco SKS was once the most affordable semi-auto rifle you could get your hands on. Imported from China by the container load, they came packed in grease, wrapped in wax paper, and priced so low it felt wrong. But those days are gone. Today, a clean, all-matching Norinco SKS, especially a pre-ban model with the bayonet, original stock, and factory markings intact, can easily fetch over $700. Certain models, like the Triangle 26 inches factory codes or the ones with rarer stampings, have gone well past the $1,000 mark. What makes these so collectible is that the US cut off Chinese military imports in the mid-90s, turning these once common rifles into limited stock. They're reliable, easy to shoot. In a world where tactical rifles get most of the attention, the humble SKS remains a reminder that rugged, affordable guns can become collector gold when history and politics shift the market. Number 5, Marlin Model 39. Hey, you ever sell a .22 thinking, hey, it's just a plinker? If that rifle was a Marlin 39A, you let go of one of the finest rimfire rifles ever built, and one that's quietly turning into a collector's jackpot. The 39A wasn't just another lever-action .22. This thing was engineered like a centerfire. Solid steel receiver, forged parts, walnut stock, and buttery smooth cycling. Introduced all the way back in 1939, it was the evolution of the old model 1891, the first lever-action .22 to feed from a tube magazine. What made the 39A stand out was its quality. This was a rifle you handed down, not wore out. It was accurate, dependable, and it looked like it belonged on a mantle. Famous trick shooters like Annie Oakley used versions of this rifle in their shows, and Marlin kept tweaking and improving it for decades. But when Remington bought Marlin and production shifted, things got dicey. By the early 2000s, quality started to slip. Then they shut it down entirely. That turned older 39As, especially pre-safety JM-stamped models, into gold. Today, clean vintage 39s regularly sell for over $1,000. Early models with original finishes and factory sights, even higher. You see, the 39A is still one of the finest shooting rimfires ever made. Every pull of the trigger feels like craftsmanship. And for collectors, that kind of quality never stays cheap. If there's one rifle that screams Cold War prestige, it's the FN FAL. Known as the right arm of the free world, This battle rifle armed over 90 countries during the height of NATO's golden age. And while millions were made, the ones that make collectors sweat today are the early Belgian imports, especially those brought into the US before the 1989 ban. The FN-FAL is a 308 powerhouse. It's semi-auto, gas-operated, and built with a level of overkill that's pure 20th century engineering. It's got a 20-round detachable magazine, a tilting bolt, and that unmistakable silhouette with the charging handle and long slanted front sight. The military models were built for abuse, and the civilian semi-auto imports kept almost all of that DNA. During the 70s and 80s, you could walk into a gun shop and grab a factory FN-FAL from Steyr or Browning's import lines for under $1,000. They were pricey for the time, sure, but now, those same guns are collector gold. A mint Belgian FN-FAL with all original parts and matching serial numbers can command $4,000 to $8,000, sometimes more if it's a Type 1 or has unique provenance. And if you've got an Israeli heavy barrel variant, a Commonwealth L1A1, or one of the rare G-series models that snuck into the US before the ATF classified them as machine guns, you're looking at 5 figures, easy. The value spike comes from scarcity. Once the import ban hit in 1989, the supply of true Belgian factory FALs dried up overnight. That pushed up the price and turned even modest condition rifles into prized possessions. The market has only gotten hotter with time, especially as shooters rediscover the rugged reliability and recoil-mitigated feel of the FAL's long-stroke gas system. Number 3. Desert Eagle Mark I. You might recognize it as the oversized hand cannon from every 90s action movie, but the original Desert Eagle, especially the early Mark I models in 357 and 44 Magnum, has quietly transformed into a high-dollar collectible with real value behind the flash. The Desert Eagle was never built for concealment. It was built for shock and awe. Developed in the early 1980s by Magnum Research in the US and manufactured by Israel Military Industries, the Mark I featured a gas-operated rotating bolt system more commonly found in rifles. That made it one of the only semi-auto pistols capable of handling true Magnum pressure without shaking itself to pieces. It wasn't just big for show, it was accurate, powerful, and had real engineering behind it. The early Mark I pistols came with fixed sights, polygonal rifling, and were chambered in either 357 Magnum or 44 Magnum. These versions are more compact than the later 50 AE models, with cleaner lines and less aggressive styling, which is exactly why collectors chase them. Original Mark I pistols in good condition, with factory finish and matching parts, are now going for $2,000 to $3,500 depending on caliber and features. Chrome or gold factory finishes, low serial numbers, or models with original packaging push even higher. The 41 Magnum variants, which saw limited production, are especially rare and fetch a premium when they surface. What started as a cinematic icon has grown into a serious collector's item. There's a sharp rise in value for untouched Mark Is, especially among enthusiasts who want something unusual, functional, and mechanically fascinating. It's one of the few guns that managed to be both ridiculous and legendary at the same time. And now it's paying off. Number 2. Walther P38. Before the Beretta M9, before the SIG P226, there was the Walther P38, the first truly modern double-action semi-auto military pistol. And today, early P38s, especially wartime bringbacks with original markings, are commanding serious money in the collector world. Adopted by the German military in 1938 as a replacement for the aging Luger P08, the P38 introduced several design features that set the standard for decades. It used a DA or SA trigger system with a decocker, had a lightweight open-top slide, and featured a tilting locking block that inspired generations of service pistols after it. This was a military sidearm that balanced reliability, ease of use, and mass production, and it worked. P38ES were produced by several factories during the war, including Walther, Mauser, and Spreewerk. Collectors hunt these codes down like treasure. Even wartime holsters and magazines can bump up the value considerably. A standard wartime issued P38 in decent shape might fetch $900 to $1,400. Number 1. Smith & Wesson Registered Magnum. Before it was called the Model 27, before 357 Magnum was even a household term, there was the registered Magnum. Introduced in 1935 during the heart of the Great Depression, this was Smith & Wesson's answer to a demand for more power, more precision, and more prestige, and it delivered all three. Each registered Magnum was custom ordered. Buyers chose their barrel length, grips, sights, finish, and even the type of trigger and hammer. Every gun came with a certificate of registration and was meticulously hand-fitted and assembled by Smith & Wesson's finest craftsmen. These weren't just revolvers. They were status symbols, ordered by lawmen, politicians, and anyone who could afford the best. Only about 5,500 were made before production shifted during World War II, which makes them one of the most limited runs of any major production revolver in U.S. history. Each one is unique, each one tells a story. And in today's market, collectors are paying dearly to get them back. A registered Magnum in fair condition can start around $5,000. One with the original registration certificate, matching numbers, and all factory accessories can reach $15,000 or more. Flawless examples, or those tied to historic figures or departments, have broken the $30,000 mark in private sales. The value here isn't just in age or scarcity. It's in the unmatched build quality, the craftsmanship, and the history of what it represented. This wasn't a gun you bought lightly, and today it's definitely not one you let go. Remember, it's not just about what you shoot, it's about what lasts. Which of these rifles would you hold on to? Subscribe to the channel for more deep dive reviews, collector picks, stay sharp, and we'll catch you in the next one.